I'm Mrs. Fritzy, Associate Professor in Mental Health Nursing. Give me a dozen of children or infants, I'll guarantee to train them to become anything that I want to be. Like it can be a doctor, a lawyer, or a chef, or yes, even a beggar or a thief. Yes, these are the words told by John B. Watson, a behavioral theorist. So, according to him, he says that behavior can be conditioned at any stage of the development. So, a behavior can be learned and it can be unlearned. So, this is the theory which I'm going to talk about today, which is called as the behavioral theory. Yes, so we'll just see the brief history about the theorist who is the founder, or we can say the advocate of the behavioral theory. Behavioral psychology or behaviorism is a theory which is based upon the learning that all behavior are conditioned. So it is advocated by the behavioralist, John B. Watson, who has contributed majority of his study to this theory. During the early 20th century, behavioral therapy dominated the subject psychology. Yes, so it is based on these behavioral techniques which was adapted during those days, that even today it is used in various therapeutic settings to deal with the clients, to teach them the new skills and the behavior. Right. So you understand how important the behavior therapy is. The school of behaviorism was emerged in the year 1910, which was led by John B. Watson. The behavioral theory studies the behavior which can be observed, and also it explains the personality based on the learning. So, this is the brief history about the behavioral theory. So, let us see what are the assumptions of the behavioral theory. One of the important assumption is they assume that the behavior is molded, which is associated with the environment. So environment plays a very important role in molding the behavior of a person. The second thing is that the behavior can be shaped at any point of time. The third one is what they believe is a person's thoughts, feelings, or emotions. All these are not considered, or we can say it is useless when we study the behavior. So these are the assumptions of the behavioral theory. So when we say the behavioral therapy, we can say it is a learning theory which is mainly classified into two conditioning of learning. One is the classical conditioning and the one is the operant conditioning. So let us see about the classical conditioning. So it is one of the learning theory which is given by Ivan Pavlov. So he was the person who got the Nobel Prize for his work in the study of the digestive process. So when he was studying the digestive process, he found a very important thing that the canines which he used for his study, they started to salivate as soon as his assistant entered the rooms or the area where the dogs were reared. So with this idea, Pavlov started to analyze why did the dog salivate when the assistant entered the room. So this, based upon this, the study of the classical conditioning was proceeded. Right. Right. So let us see how the theory about the classical conditioning Pavlov explained through this training of the canines, right? Yes, so in this classical conditioning, Pavlov found four types of responses based upon the stimulus which elicited these responses. The first stimulus is the unconditioned stimulus, wherein the initially the food, whenever the unconditioned stimulus, which is the food, was given to the dog started giving the response, which is the unconditioned response. That's the first thing. The second thing what was studied is the neutral stimulus was subjected, right? So here the neutral stimulus is the bell. So as soon as he rang the bell, the response of the dog was nil. There was no response of salivation. The third thing which he noted is he rang the bell and also he gave the food. So that is the unconditioned stimulus for which the dog started to give a conditioned response. The final one which he noted was the conditioned stimulus which gave a conditioned response. Here, the neutral stimulus, which was the bell, was used as a conditioned stimulus, which gave the response from a dog, which is salivation. We can say it as a conditioned response. So, based on this concept, Pavlov has given us the various, types of the stimulus. The first one is the unconditioned stimulus. So, unconditioned stimulus is the one which will elicit an unconditional response automatically, or which naturally the response will take place. Okay, that is called as a unconditional stimulus, which will give us an unconditioned response. Next one is the unconditioned response. So, unconditioned response is the response which happens naturally when he is subjected to an unconditioned stimulus. So, that is called as unconditioned response. The third one is conditioned response. The conditioned response is the one here which is the neutral stimulus. So, neutral stimulus in association with the unconditioned stimulus will give or will trigger a response which is known as the conditioned response. The last one is the conditional response. The conditional response is the one which will be elicited based on the previous neutral stimulus. So, these are the concept which Pavlov has explained in the classical conditioning by his experiment with the canines. We have got the different phenomena which is associated with the classical conditioning. What are those different phenomena? The first one is the acquisition, the second one is the extinction, the third one is the spontaneous recovery, the fourth one is the stimulus generalization, and the last one is the discrimination. So let us see about each of the phenomena in detail. So, acquisition is the initial stage of the conditioning which happens in response, and the response is strong and it is strengthened. The second one, which is the extinction occurs, that is, the response will occur when the particular stimulus or the response is going to end or disappear. Okay, that is called as the extinction. The next one is the spontaneous recovery. Spontaneous recovery is the occurrence of the conditioned response after a rest period. So we can say here the neutral stimulus, which is called as the rest period, will elicit a conditioned response. So that is called as the spontaneous recovery. The next one is the generalization. Yes, stimulus generalization will occur after the occurrence of the actual stimulus, or the response which is happening after the conditioned stimulus is called as the stimulus generalization. The last one is the discrimination. What is discrimination? It is the ability to differentiate or to find out the differences between the unconditioned stimulus and the conditioned stimulus. So that is the final thing which will happen, which is the discrimination. So these are the phenomena which is based upon the classical condition. So let us move on to the next type of the conditioning, which is the operant conditioning. Operant conditioning was coined by the behaviorist B.F. Skinner. So, according to Skinner, he believed that the thoughts and feelings, the inner thoughts or the feelings, are not related to the explaining of behavior. Rather, it is the external or the things which is observed outside which explains or which says about the behavior. So that is what Skinner believed. He did not believe on the feelings or thoughts which caused the behavior, but he just told that the external whatever is being observed, that is known as the behavior. Skinner used the term operant, which refers to the active behavior which is seen based upon the environment. So anything which the environment will elicit the active behavior, that is called as the operant. So based on this, Skinner has classified the two important reinforcement. Okay, what is reinforcement? It is anything which is going to strengthen a particular behavior. That is called as reinforcement. So based on this, Skinner has given two reinforces. One is the positive reinforce. The second one is a negative reinforce. Now, what is the positive reinforce? Positive reinforce is the acquisition of behavior, or we can say a person behavior is accepted by the society. It is the reinforcement, or in the form of a praise, or in the form of some prize, that we appreciate such kind of a behavior which is accepted. We give him a token, or we give him a praise. So that is called as a positive reinforcer, which is going to make him to follow this particular behavior more. Right. So that is called as positive reinforce. Negative reinforcement is nothing but removing the particular behavior which is not accepted by the society. So the response of a behavior will be removed, and he will not be given any kind of appraisal or token. Rather, he will be given any kind of punishment in terms of removing the whatever appraisal which is given to them. Right? That kind of a response, when it is elicited, when we remove this appraisal from him, then the behavior can be modified. So that is the negative reinforce. Okay, when I say punishment, punishment is the adverse event or a reaction which is going to decrease a particular kind of a behavior. So punishment can be of two forms. One is the positive punishment, the second one is a negative punishment. When I say positive punishment, it is the weakening of the event which is favorable. So when we weaken the event, it is going to act as a positive punishment. Coming to the negative punishment, so negative punishment is the removal of the favorable event. So totally we are avoiding or stopping or ceasing a particular event which is favorable. So that is called as a negative punishment. In operant conditioning, the schedules of reinforcement is very important. So based on the schedule of the reinforcement, so there is a classification called as the continuous reinforcement and the partial reinforcement. So when I say the continuous reinforcement, whenever a particular behavior is shown by an individual which is favorable or which is accepted by the society, reinforcement will be given. A positive reinforcement like a praise or token economy, or gift will be given whenever the behavior which is shown is a positive one which is accepted by the society. Say for example, like for initial period of training or for initial period of learning, you can imagine a child who goes to school for the first time. When he starts to write his the alphabet, so if he writes the A, an appraisal is given in the form of praise, or in the form of a star, or in the form of a chocolate. So whenever he tries to write or a new learning is done, the praise is given to the child, or a positive reinforcement is given to the child. So this we can say it as a continuous reinforcement which is given, which is going to make the response or the behavior to be followed, right? So as and when the child starts to learn this kind of a skill or a behavior or response is learned, then the reinforcement is slowly weaned off. That is a type of a continuous reinforcement. Coming to the second type, which is the partial reinforcement. So partial reinforcement, whenever the new behavior or new learning is happening, so a reinforcement is given, but not every time. So whenever it does better or the best, only then the reinforcement will be given. Say, for example, the child is doing better in his exam, so not the best, but he may perform best at some times. Okay, so those times the reinforcement will be given in the form of a gift or in the form of some kind of a praise, right? So that time the reinforcement is given. So we can say as part-time or the partial reinforcement. So these are the two types of the reinforcement based on the schedule. One is the continuous reinforcement, the second one is the partial reinforcement. Yes, so we'll move on to the techniques of the behavioral therapies. We have got the various techniques which are used in various therapeutic settings to modify the behavior or to teach the client a new behavior, right? So such kind of techniques that we have in behavior therapy, which is called as chaining or shaping, prompting, token economy. So like that, we have got so many types of the techniques. So let us learn about few techniques here. The first one is the chaining. In this chaining, the technique used for modifying or learning the new behavior is breaking down the complex task into simpler ones. Okay, say for example, we want to teach a 3-year-old child or a 2-year-old child to brush his teeth. So we have got the steps in that. First thing, we may have to wash the brush, then you put the paste on the brush, then hold the toothbrush upright and show him the direction of brushing the teeth. Even the direction we have upward, downward, sides, right. So it is a complex task for a 3-year-old or a 2-year-old child. So we are breaking this complex task into simpler or smaller steps. Say for example, first day I teach the child how to wash the brush, then how to put on the paste onto it, right? Then the second day, he is given a chance to do it on himself. So once he has achieved that particular small step, then the next step what I'm going to teach him is to, put it in your mouth and show him the different direction. That's the second step. Likewise, a series of steps of a particular task is being taught, and once the basic task is taught, a new task will be taught, and finally all these small tasks will be clubbed or changed together so that the whole task, which is the complex one, the child will or a person will learn. So similarly, when we want to modify the behavior of a person, step by step, the complex will be separated or segregated into the small steps, and the behavior will be taught. So that is called as the chain. The second one is the prompting. So what is the use of prompting? That here we want to trigger a acceptable behavior or acceptable response. So how do we do the prompting? Either by giving the verbal cues or the visual cues. Like verbal cues, there is a trainer who is going to tell what the client is supposed to do. You have to do this, you have to do that. So verbal cues will be given to the client to be done. So that is a form of asking the person to attain a particular response. Otherwise, a visual cue will be given. So in the form of the images or in the form of a scenes, he will be asked to view that and learn from that. So that is called as prompting. The third type of a technique is the shaping. Shaping is nothing but molding the behavior of a person. So in terms of role modeling, so we ask the person to keep someone as a model, and based on that we are asking him to shape or change his behavior, which he actually is having a behavior which is not accepted. Those behavior will be molded or shaped, and the behavior which is learned will be a new one which can be accepted by the society. So like this, we have got so many techniques in the behavioral therapy. Right. So this is what is a basic thing about the behavioral theory, which is taken by the behavioralist John B. Watson, who has given us this theory based upon the theory of learning, which is the classical conditioning and the operant conditioning, and the various behavioral techniques which are used presently in the treatment of the psychiatric conditions to mold or to make the client to learn the new behavior. Hope you all have understood the topic. Thank you.